So first of all, I want to thank, oh man, do I really want to thank the students, and I don't want to get emotional. But yesterday, I feel like this is a recurring theme, and Mrs. Sochawa could attest to this. Like, it's the day before, and we're wondering, is this event really going to take place? But thank all of you for making that happen. Because I do really love storytelling. I love hearing stories from people's lives, and I think it just really helps build community. So thanks for being a part of that. All right, so most of y'all probably know how this works when we have a story slam. Each of the student storytellers gets 5 minutes to share a story that is true, it's personal, so something that's happened to them, and it ties into whatever is the theme for that particular slam. So this year, since it's a leap year, we thought it'd be fun to have the theme of extra, since we get one extra day this year. So as I was pitching this to students and trying to encourage, what's a story that you could tell tied into that theme, I said, boy, you had a lot of extra days off from school this year. What did you do with your time? Or we talked about, have you ever been in a situation where, like I gave a story pitch of, I had to get an extra ticket to a sold-out show. How was that going to happen? Have anyone in here ever been a part of a TV or movie where you got to be an extra? So there are a lot of different ways to think about the theme, and so you're going to hear stories tonight that touch upon that word extra. Now, students, you get 5 minutes, and I know you have been practicing and you have that in the back of your mind. Hopefully, my 20-year-old magic wand is going to come through, because when you hit the 5-minute mark, if you are really into your story and it is stretching into extra time, you are going to hear, hopefully, this sound. It's magical. You will also see Miss Sochawa waving that wand like it's time to land the plane, students. And if you get to the 6-minute mark, you're going to see that wand wave again. But the thing is, the first time, if you're really going for it and it's close to 5, you'll see the wand. So just be thinking, okay, I really got to wrap things up here. All right, so that's how this is going to work. We have our judging panel over here, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about them as we go through this evening. But to get us started, I'm going to tell you that, I said this to a student earlier, and I think I say this every year. The point in this story slam is not the points. The point is that you're sharing a story, we're building this community, but it is a competition, so we have to have points, and the judges are going to be giving those out throughout the evening so we can see who are the 2 students that go on to represent us at the district slam. All right, so before we begin, everybody, if you'll just double check your electronic devices, make sure that they're silent. I told this to a group of students that I was a chaperone for on a field trip at the courthouse, and guess whose phone went off during the hearing? I'm like, oh, I thought I silenced that. Okay, so make sure those are silenced. And then on your programs, we listed all of our student storytellers in alphabetical order, but we use this marvelous website called the Wheel of Names to help us decide what order were the storytellers going to go in. And our first storyteller of the evening, whose name came up, is someone who we asked this question of all the students and some of our audience members. The second week in February is known as Secondhand Wardrobe Week. And so we asked everyone, where is your favorite place to thrift for clothes in Portland? Or you could do a combo. What is the greatest piece of clothing you have ever scored at a thrift store? And our first storyteller of the evening said that it was white Zara skinny jeans found at Rerun 2. So please help me welcome to the mic, Finn. I think it'll be okay.
I think it's fine. Okay. All right. So I had a summer job last year, and I was really excited about it. Everything went great, but I do remember this one particular story from this time that I woke up. It was like a month and a half maybe into working there, and I had woken up. It was perfectly beige morning in the summer. It was kind of that sticky, tacky air that you kind of feel when it gets humid. But I was just pretty ready for work. I wouldn't call 5 a.m. morning, but I did have to wake up pretty early in order to get myself ready for the day. So I got some oatmeal, again, another gray color. And that's actually how I would describe the color of my mornings. My mom would leave before me to go to her work, and so I was left alone. And then I would walk to my bus stop. It's about maybe 3 to 4 blocks away from my house. It wasn't a long walk, just felt particularly moody in this morning summer. And I get on the bus, drives away, and I'm headed towards my stop. It's going all good. Get there. I hear the bus screech and lower, the subtle hiss, and I get out, sprint across Sandy, trying not to get hit by the oncoming cars. And once I get there, I would get there a little early, just because of the bus schedule. It was just the way it worked out. But I would get there, my supervisor would greet me, go, "How the weather, it's just great, isn't it?" It was not great. It was very not great weather. I'm not a fan of that sticky, gross humidity, but I had to deal. So I head into the break room, sit down, and then hear the door unlock, and my coworker comes thundering through. This was Megan, and she always added a bit of chaotic color to my drab mornings. I would be getting ready, and she would be playing music. It was always the worst. It was like Yoko Ono, John Lennon's wife, really terrible stuff. And so she would be playing that, blasting it. And I would just leave. I headed straight out the door to go to the little room where I would be working. It was a gymnastics place. And it was gymnastics camp at the time. We just did the breaks, or I worked during the breaks. And once I got in there, I checked my little schedule. The coach I was working with was Megan. Yay. So that wasn't the best, but I continued on, and I flipped through, checked the attendance. I had this kid named Dax who would be joining us. And Megan came through, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I know Dax." And she told me that he's one of these kids that you really have to keep on a schedule. He can't really deviate. He gets pretty upset. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. So I get all ready. Kids start coming in, checking them in. I see Dax. I'm like, "Hey, bud, how's it going?" "It's doing great. Everything's going wonderful." Get through snack. Send first my group. We split it up between me and Megan. And so my group went to gym with her, came back, and we were ready to go to the park. Now, I liked to get shoes on, then wash our hands after snack so we could go to the park. And this was not the right order for Dax. Dax needed to wash his hands and put his shoes on, which was okay, but that's not how we did it that day, and that caused quite a bit of crying, screaming even. And so we got everyone lined up. Dax stopped crying. We were all good. We were ready to go to the park. And so we marched forward, out the door, ready to embrace the beautiful outdoors. It had gotten a bit more sunny. And so we're walking, finally get to the park. It was only about 1 to 2 blocks away. And I get everyone lined up, get them to stop punching each other, stop slapping each other. It's no good. And we finally got to some activities. We did some duck, duck, goose, fun tag games, all the classic camp stuff. It was going really well until I realized that we had to go. I checked my watch, and I was like, ooh, it's time to go. So I said, I'm going to stand by my principles. I'm going to give these kids a bit extra time. Dax was not a fan of that. In fact, he really hated it. So as we're going, it's going okay. Megan decides that she would bring her group early too. And she would be bringing soccer balls. She gave all my kids soccer balls. There was a lot of getting kicked in the head, soccer balls flying everywhere. I was chasing after them, and this dog comes running through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was a lot. So finally, the dog gets through, ravages everywhere, and Dax took off. He was not a fan of dogs. Being the track star I took after him, this 5-year-old, and I finally caught up to him. We got in our line, and we took off. Now, I've learned 2 things from this. 1, never let Megan use any sort of soccer ball or sport ball in general. And 2, don't give kids extra time at the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Finn. So Finn has a lot of extracurriculars and has to head off to mock trial practice. But thank you, Finn, for that fabulous story. I love it when students become counselors and then have to be in charge of other children, and then they get a taste of like, now you see the other side of things and what it's like to be a teacher and to have to round things up. And so I love that Finn got to experience that and what it's like. So while our judges are tabulating scores, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about one of the judges on our panel, Gretchen Brooks. So we asked all the judges the same questions we asked the student storytellers to say, is there a particular place you want to go when you're thinking of thrifting? What is the craziest thing you've ever found? And Gretchen has a favorite place to thrift. It is the bins. I have yet to be to the bins. Now, this is going to come up again throughout the evening, and so I think I'm going to have to check this place out. But Gretchen wanted to go to the bins. Now, the first time Gretchen ever went to the bins, she was teasing her friend and said, what if I find a body part? You hear these urban legends of people going to thrift stores and finding some really unusual things. Gretchen had put on gloves that went all the way up to the elbows and was digging in the bins, and her hand felt something that was foot-like. And as she grabbed a hold of it and pulled the item free, she found out it was a resuscitation instruction dummy, but it was a baby dummy. So, as Gretchen can attest, you can find some really weird things at the bins. Okay, then I asked some audience members. Now, no one put their name on this, but someone said that their favorite place to thrift was the Goodwill at 35th and Hawthorne that's now closed. I remember this because I live off of Hawthorne. So, who's the person that found leather boots that were dyed leather, purple and mauve, and had a diamond in the sole of each shoe? That sounds like a song.
Not a real diamond.
Okay. Still, that was a fancy fashion find. I love it. I do really miss that store. That was a good one. All right. Our next storyteller said the best piece of clothing she ever thrifted was a turtleneck sweater. Please welcome to the microphone, Bina.
Okay, so a few days ago, I was in AP Physics class, which is my 8th period class, and I was sitting across from a junior because our classroom is arranged of tables of 4. So I'm here, and a junior is across from me, and next to him is a childhood friend that I knew from elementary school, and across from her is this guy I knew, right? And so the junior, he goes and he's like, gosh, this person's called me like 4 times in the last 4 minutes. And we're like, oh, like, are you being spammed? And he's like, yeah, maybe. And so the guy next to me is like, oh, do you think you're getting called from India? Because I know that a lot of the spam hubs are like from India. And we're all like, oh yes, like let's geocache this. Like it's the last 30 minutes of class, anything for entertainment. So we start putting the phone number into the keyboard, and I'm going on my browser, and I find that it's from Gyeongseom, which is like a county in Korea. And I'm like, guys, this person's calling from Korea. And so the girl who was sitting diagonal to me, that childhood friend, she's like, oh, Bina, you speak Korean, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she had known this because she knew that my mom was from Korea. And she goes, what if the next time this person calls, you translate all of our AP Physics into Korean for them? And like spam the spammer. And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And I was a little nervous, partly because I don't know any AP Physics in Korean. I also don't know like half of AP Physics in English, so we were at a good starting point. And also, I was pretty nervous that despite the fact that this wasn't my phone, if I picked it up, I was going to get murdered. I was like, they're gonna track my bank account number, they're gonna drain the very insignificant sum of money, and I'm gonna die, right? So I was like kind of hoping that they weren't gonna call again. But in the next 2 minutes, the phone starts vibrating, and everybody's looking at me, and my hand's like shaking. I'm like reaching across the table. I'm like, God, I hope I don't die. But like also we have a physics test next class, so like maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing. And I pick it up, and I'm silent. Because my mom taught me that if you are answering a spam phone call and you don't know the number, you shouldn't say yes. Because they can take that audio file and sign like audio documents that you don't want to sign. So I'm quiet. And then on the other side of the line, I hear this very old man go, 여보세요? Which if you don't know, in Korean means hello. So I go, 네, 여보세요, which means yes, hello. And through the rest of this conversation, I'm just going to be translating what was said. He goes, is this Yoonjin's house? I'm like, no, this isn't Yoonjin's house. I'm like, you called America. And he's like, oh. There's a little silence. He goes, do you know Yoonjin? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't think I do know Yoonjin. And he's like, oh. And he goes, what a coincidence that I called America and a Korean speaker picked up. And I'm like, yeah, because I'd been thinking on the similar tracks because I'd been asking around. I'd wanted like a Korean speaking buddy at Grant, and I hadn't been able to find one. So what were the chances that he called the person sitting across from me in the last period class in the last 30 minutes of school? I was like, I know how to speak Korean because my mom's from Korea. And he's like, oh. He goes, does your mom know Yoonjin? I I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't think my mom does know Yunjin. But my physics teacher is kind of looking at me funny. He's staring at the phone in my hand. He's got that gleam in his eye. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm in school. I'm in AP Physics. I have to get going now. And he goes, okay, and he hangs up. Halfway through this conversation, a guy at the table next to me goes, bro, I think she's speaking Spanish. So, obviously, all of this led me to think about this extra language that I knew. But it also made me think about these chances that we take and these extra moments that happen that don't need to happen because you were willing to try. So thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to say I'm amazed that in this day and age you actually wanted to talk on the phone. I cannot get my own children to answer the phone if it rings at home, so kudos to you. I really appreciated that story. So one of the judges sitting at the table talk about an extra moment that happened that you weren't expecting. Is Rachel Ginocchio, who was at Grant last month and came into the library and started talking to me. And when I found out she was an author, of course, I said, oh, would you be interested in coming to our story slam? So there she sits on our panel over there. And Rachel had quite the find at a Goodwill. She scored a pair of tighty-whities that were big enough for both her husband and herself to each fit in one of the legs. And this was the perfect find because their Halloween costume that year was as a pair of Fruit of the Loom underwear because they were in solidarity with their son who decided that Halloween, the perfect costume was going to be Captain Underpants. So way to go, Mom. That was great for you. Okay, another unnamed slip of paper, but keeping with Goodwill, someone found at the Goodwill on Lombard a cozy, fleecy sweater, and they're wearing it tonight. Oh, it's Mona Schreier, former teacher at Grant High School. Wonderful. So I'm looking over, I think, are we doing good, judges? Lovely. All right. So for our third storyteller, so at first, this storyteller wasn't sure that they had anything to say about thrifting, but then as they heard some of the talk going around, they too said, oh, yes, the place to go if you're going to thrift is the bins. So can you please welcome to the microphone, Noah.
Hey everybody, is this good enough? Just making sure. So it's a Friday evening, right? It's the end of the quarter of my first year at Grant. I'm with all my friends in the building actually. We just finished some tests, we're getting ready to go home, and hey, it's Friday. We got time. Let's go get dinner, celebrate, have some fun. And so we begin to, start discussing, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? But there is one problem. So one of my friends, Joanna, her mother is there. I'm not quite sure why. I think it was some counselor thing or whatever. But her mother isn't exactly too keen on her daughter going out with a bunch of friends on a Friday evening when it looks about as dark as this. It's also pouring rain, of course. And so, we could just ask and get a no and move on or make some plans some other day. But we're not going to do that. We're a little bit more extra than that. So we go to the effort of making a presentation, 4 slides in Google Slides about exactly why Joanna's mom should let Joanna go out to dinner with us. Have we come up with a place? Hell no, but we're still going to make it happen. So we give this presentation, we have a lot of fun. We're like, oh, this is going to be really good. It's the end of this quarter. We all want to celebrate. Good little social bonding moment. And with enough effort, we eventually do wear her mother down. So there we are, except there's one condition. She's not going to go with us. She's going to meet us at the place we're getting dinner. Where are we getting dinner? We don't know yet. Now, okay, we can make do. So they leave, they go back to their house, getting ready for the notification, hey, we decided, let's go here. And eventually we go, hey, there's a Wingstop. Not that far, an hour, 45-minute bus ride, because of course, freshmen can't do much else. Not that far. It's only like, what, 4:30, 4:45 at night? Pretty good. So, okay, we text them, hey, we're going to be at this Wingstop at this time, meet us there. It's close to your house. Okay. So we decide, at this point, it's just three of us. It's me, my friend Ellie, and my friend Will. And of course, Ellie here is the one with the phone ready, whipped out, got the directions up. All right, Ellie, let's meet up at Joanna's house. You have the directions, you have the address. I'm sure we'll be fine. So we load up the directions, we get on the bus, and yeah, this is an hour and a half, because there was a crash or something. I don't know. Something took an hour and a half. Pouring rain outside, pitch black, and we get there, and we start the slow trudge through the pouring rain and the pitch black to Joanna's house. 30 minutes out. Okay, we're still walking. 10 minutes out. We're all soaking wet, but we're almost there to those wings, have a great celebratory dinner. It's about, I'd say 6 at this point, 5:45, 5:40. And we get there. And it's Joanna's house. Should be like a pretty big building. Next there's this really great like soba shop nearby. And so we're getting ready, and we look around. It's an intersection in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Portland. Maps aren't really working great, and something went wrong somewhere. Now, at this point, we're tired, we're wet, we don't want to figure out what went wrong, we just want to go home, dry off, get a bath, do a celebratory dinner some other day, It's getting late, it's already dinner time-ish, let's finish. But no, we're not going to do that. We're better friends than that. We can go that extra mile. And so we figure out what went wrong. Turns out, we had the wrong address the whole damn time. We are across town from our destination. So we hop on the bus, and another hour later, we are completely soaking wet at Joanna's doorstep, ready to finally get some wings. It's 7:30 at night. And so Joanna comes out and is like, what happened to you guys? Why are you so late? Come on. And again, we could just laugh it off. But no, we all got to point directly to Ellie because it was Ellie's fault. So it's still pouring rain, still pitch black. You know the deal. We're walking down to the Wingstop. That's about 10-minute, 15-minute walk away. Not that far comparing what we just went through. We got those little awnings, I think they're called. And we're getting under there, trying to dry off a little before we get there. We don't want to be soaking wet when we get there. And the awnings stop. And suddenly, we have a half-mile walk, more in the pouring rain, more in the pitch black, more of this extra drudgery through oblivion. But we're going to keep going because, hey, it's 7 o'clock. That's a good time for a celebratory dinner, right? It's not like we have anything to wake up for tomorrow. It's Saturday. I totally don't have a 9:30 meeting, right? Right, guys? We'll figure it out. So we get there, and we open that door to the beautiful, wonderful Wingstop. It's pouring rain outside. As we walk in that door, all of us, the rain stops. And it seemed like the universe in its entirety just went that extra mile to conspire against us that night. Because all we wanted was a nice dinner out with friends. And I guess that's what we got in the end. Thank you.
I can feel your pain. As we left Grant High School today, Miss Sochawa and I had to walk through the blustery rain to get our dinner before we got back here. Glad you got the wings, and glad you got to celebrate with your friends. Okay, so another person who is on our panel over there is Olivia Jones Hall. And one of the best items that Olivia was ever able to thrift was a faux fur coat with bell sleeves. And Olivia, as soon as I read that, all I could think was, that is Knuff. You were totally... I want to see this fur coat in action at a future literary arts event. Okay, one of our audience members, Daniel, says one of the best finds was a wool, Western Pendleton shirt. Wearing it, people. Where are you wearing? Wow. Wow. Got it yesterday for Valentine's from a store in on Northwest Union. Wow. It is stellar. $20. $20.
I know.
What's the name? Is the name of the store Northwest Union?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, people. We're all going to head there to check out what might still be on.
There are a lot of Harley t-shirts.
Ooh, all right. I love it. Okay, well, it's appropriate that was the person whose slip of paper that I pulled, because our next storyteller, this is a place we've heard earlier in the evening, says their favorite place to thrift is Rerun. Now, is it the Rerun on Fremont or the one on Sandy? Fremont Rerun.
Away from my house.
Lucky you. Well, please welcome this storyteller, Deb.
Hi. Okay. So for context, I have this cat. I got him in 2nd grade. My dad found him in Pendleton on artist residency. He is the most beautiful cat you have ever seen. Whatever cat you're imagining in your head right now, he's more beautiful. He's also the meanest cat you have ever seen. He is terrible. He's a little menace. He's half wild, so we have to let him outside or else he kills all of the doors. Recently, we got him a cat door. This may have not been our smartest idea because of our other furry friends who aren't actually really our friends. I need you to imagine with me. You are me. It is 9:30. You are in my basement, which is like arranged sort of like a donut with the stairs upstairs in the middle. On the other side of the stairs is my cat's cat door. You are me. You are walking around the stairs to the other side of the basement, and you see this furry figure in the cat door. Naturally, you assume it is your cat. And then you look. And then you scream like a banshee or some protagonist from a horror movie because it is a raccoon. It is a raccoon, and it is this big. It's giant. I've seen raccoons before. I've seen other raccoons. They're big. This one was extra big. I scream again. I run upstairs. I tell my parents, there's a raccoon in the basement. What? There's a raccoon in the basement. We make my dad go downstairs. And then, it's not there anymore. Actually, no. It was there. It was at the top of the stairs, looking back at him. This is not the end of the story, by the way. But this was months ago. And so my mom and I, later we got like a motion sensor light bulb so that it would scare it away, you know? That raccoon is not coming back after getting screamed at by a teenage girl. It came back. I need you to imagine that you're me again. Upstairs, 2nd floor, you see you're going to the kitchen where the basement stairs are. You see a little furry figure going downstairs. It wasn't my cat. It was a raccoon. And so I screamed and I did the mature thing and I ran to my mommy. And I got my mom and I was like, there's a raccoon in the house. I think I said it exactly like that. And so I had my mom go inside. She has a studio outside. We converted the garage. Both of my parents are artists. And so I'm sort of like in there as if I'm some survivor of a nuclear war, and this is my bunker, and if I go outside, I'm going to be irradiated and die of radiation poisoning. And then it sort of vanished. It's not in the house anymore, and I didn't see it come out. And so I'm looking out the window, and I look on the roof, and there it is, staring at me, giant. My dog is freaking out. And then I go back inside, and that raccoon still lives in our backyard. I know you really wanted some amazing resolution. Maybe the raccoon and I shook hands, made a little deal. Nope, still lives there, terrorizing my cat and my dog. My poor, poor cat. He is now locked inside permanently because we had to board that door up, because if I see another raccoon in my house, if I screamed loudly, I was going to scream extra loud. Thank you.
Oh my God, I got caught up in the story because just 2 days ago, Deb, at my house, as I was getting ready for work and I'm drinking coffee, I hear this howling on the back deck, and we too have a motion sensor light that has been put up. And don't feel immature, because I looked at my husband and said, you need to go investigate whatever is making that noise outside. And in fact, it was 2 raccoons fighting one another. So I feel for you. All right, so let's see. Our next judge, I want to tell you about their favorite place to thrift. It's Danielle Jones. Danielle, I don't know this place, and I feel like it comes up later with one of our other people. You like to go to Take It or Leave It on Northeast 42nd. I haven't heard of it. I'm so excited. I'm going to go check it out. All right. Someone wrote, Tracy says, favorite place to thrift for clothes, or what's been your greatest find? My dad's closet, there was a gray cashmere sweater. Ooh, very, very nice indeed. One thing I wanted to pitch really quick, because Danielle works with Multnomah County Library. So this year, the Everybody Reads book has extra words in it. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabriel Zevin. And so we are so lucky. We not only, through the Library Foundation, have lots of copies of the books to hand out to students, but we are going to get to have a visit with the author. So students, if you are interested in being part of that author visit, you should come sign up. And parents, if you want to be reading the book alongside of your students, I have extra copies available for you. All right, so our next storyteller. Judges, are we ready for our next storyteller? Okay, so that storyteller, when asked, that's you. Oh, this is perfect, isn't it? Because this storyteller also likes the store Take It or Leave It. So please welcome to the microphone, Nora.
I have always loved backpack. And so in high school, I found this mountaineering group, and I decided to join, because what is mountaineering but backpacking with a little extra? My first big trip with them was last summer. My dad dropped me off at 4:30 a.m. in front of Rick's house, a 72-year-old mountaineer and the leader of our trip, for what was to be a 14-hour run to the Canadian border in a jam-packed minivan with 10 kids, 3 propane tanks, and enough instant ramen to last us the rest of our lives. When we got to Canada, a helicopter picked us up and dropped us off into the Rockies. We were there for 10 days to summit some mountains. And so, on the second day, I emerged from my tent, pulling on my boots. And as I pull them on, I look up at the sky, and I see extremely, dark clouds. Now, I'm not one to be flustered by dark clouds. I'm from Portland, after all. But here's the thing. When you're at 10,000 feet in the middle of nowhere and a lightning storm hits, you are the tallest object, and the lightning has nothing to hit but you. And so I was ready to just hunker down at camp. But Rick had other plans. We were there to climb mountains, and so we were going to. And at 8 a.m., we stepped onto that glacier and got into rope teams. Because here's the thing about mountaineering. It is really easy to die. And one of the main reasons is crevasses. Crevasses are these giant cracks in the glacier that go down hundreds of feet. And so, in order to help ourselves not die, we tie ourselves to each other and create rope teams. So if one is to fall into a crevasse, the other members of the rope team can run and go splat onto their stomach and hopefully stop the fall. And so we headed out, and 3 rope teams of 4, crampons on, ice axes in hand. It was slow going as we zigzagged our way up the glacier, avoiding crevasses. About a mile in, it started to sprinkle, and then rain, but we kept going. We kept going even when we heard a rumble from the sky above us, because as Rick said, what if it's just an airplane? We've come so far already. We kept going even though the sky continued to rumble 3 more times. We kept going until we saw a flash of lightning, and seconds later, the loudest thunderclap I have ever heard in my life. And at that exact same moment, Rick turns around and yells, "Run!" And so I take off at a sprint, running down the glacier, pulling my rope team with me because I was on top of a melting glacier, jumping over these crevasses that I had so carefully avoided earlier because I was in metal crampons and with a metal ice axe. And I don't know about you, but I can't think of a better lightning rod. And so I ran. I ran with everything I had, dragging my rope team behind me as they tripped to keep up. And finally, we found an outcropping of rocks. And there we huddled for what felt like days. It was only 30 minutes. And then, when the storm did end, we trudged our way back down to camp. But the storm hadn't had enough of us yet, I guess. Because when we got down to camp, the skies opened up. It started to hail and then pour. And we all scurried to our tents. Now, you should know something about my tent. I was sharing a tent with 3 other girls. And you probably know this, but when you're looking for a tent spot, you look for the flattest spot, so it's nice to have a good view. And let me tell you, we found the spot. There was just one issue. It was on the side of a cliff. But being the immortal teenagers we were, we had to set it up there. Looking back on this now, it was a horrible idea. Because as we climbed into our tent, the wind started to pick up, and our fly that wasn't staked down kept flying back and forth, exposing us to the rain. And the tent started to sway from side to side as if it might fall. But being the smart girls we were, we didn't move our tent. No. Instead, we tied rocks to the fly and threw them over the cliff so that it would weigh it down. We took the rest of our stuff and put it inside the tent to weigh the tent down even more. And we ended up spending the rest of the day in a tent that smelled like wet feet. And I thought it couldn't get worse, right? But it did that night. That night, the wind got so loud that it was howling. The lightning and thunder came back. It got so windy, we each had to go into the corner and hold a tent pole, shaking, trying to keep the tent upright, counting between the lightning and the thunder. 1, 2, 3, hoping the lightning won't get within 1 mile and we'd have to get out of our tent and find a hiding spot. Finally, around 1 a.m., we fell asleep. But the next morning, I woke up to a stream running through my sleeping bag. But when I got out of the tent and pulled on my boots, I looked back up at the sky. I saw bright blue, as if the storm had never been there. But then I looked to my right, and I saw our septuagenarian leader emerging from his tent, straight upwards, because his tent had completely collapsed on him that night. But as he emerged, he looked up at the sky. He looked at us, tired, stinky, wet, cold. He looked back up, and he smiled, and he said, "Who's ready to summit another peak?" And let me tell you, mountaineering is not backpacking with a little extra. It's a lot extra. Thank you.
And that is why I do not like venturing into the great outdoors, Nora. You can have it. The last judge on our panel, Chris Myers, he says he doesn't really like to thrift. However, he is a fool for used record stores, which are adjacent. Chris's best recent find was a $5 copy of Queen's A Night at the Opera, which was found at Exiled Records on Southwest Canyon Road. And it's dangerous that I'm standing in front of a microphone because now I want to break into Bohemian Rhapsody. I shall spare everyone. From our jar of audience responses, Ms. Kokis says, greatest find was a, oh my goodness, Kokis, 50-esque evening bag that was, I cannot read your handwriting.
It was a 50s evening bag covered in buttons.
Covered in buttons. I'm like, is this carved in butter? I couldn't like, man, that is exquisite. What a find. Okay. Woo. All right. And then once again, recurring theme. Where is our favorite place to thrift? It's the Milwaukee bins. I'm going to have to go. Hopefully I don't find a foot in there. But please, will you welcome our final storyteller of the evening, Luke.
In middle school, I would get hot lunch pretty regularly, almost every day. And if you don't know how hot lunch works, I'm assuming you all live on a rock. You go in, you get in line, you get your main course, you get your vegetable, you get your milk, and then you pay. And after you pay, there's usually a bin called the no thank you table. And the no thank you table is a really good system in theory where kids can put their food that they didn't want, that they got at lunch, that they don't want to eat, so that other kids can have the opportunity to eat it for themselves. And of course, there's a policy in my school where you have to get a fruit or vegetable with every lunch. So most kids at my school would get your lunch, get your fruit, just pick a random one, doesn't matter. You pay, throw the fruit in the no thank you table, and enjoy your fruitless lunch. And I got out of class late that day, so I'm entering the lunch line, and I pay, and I look at the no thank you table, and it is piled high with oranges. Just mounds of oranges. And school lunches don't usually get produce right. It's usually overripe or underripe or just weird. But they got oranges right. The oranges are delicious. They're divine. They are like vibrant balls of sunshine. They're succulent. They're sweet. They're just delicious. I've never had a better orange than the oranges that I've eaten at school lunch. So naturally, my first instinct is to grab as many as I physically can from the no thank you table. I put my pizza down. I don't have time for that. I grab orange shirt pocket, 2 oranges in each pocket, 1 orange in each back pocket. I put an orange in my mouth. I look like a roasted pig. I grab my pizza with one hand. I grab 2 oranges with the other, and I waddle back to where my friends are sitting at their table. And I plop my oranges down, and I huff, and I sit down. And then my oranges are rolling, so I have to corral them and put them in a pile. And as I'm doing that, I feel a tap on my shoulder. I look back, and it is the principal. The principal and I had a very tumultuous relationship. We did not get along. And he looks at all of the oranges, and he says, "Are you going to eat all those oranges?" "Yeah." He looks down. "Well, we don't tolerate food waste here. So if you don't eat all of those oranges by the end of the lunch period, then we're going to have a conversation." Okay. I'm fine with that. I put my pizza aside. I don't have time for that. I organize my friends in a bucket brigade. 2 friends are peeling, 2 friends are peeling. 1 friend is breaking the oranges into slices, putting them on a plate for me, passing it on, and I'm eating the oranges. Now, I have not eaten breakfast, so I am starved. I am ravenous. And I'm eating the oranges. I feel like I could eat oranges forever. They are as good as I remember. They're so good. You don't understand. And I'm eating them, and I'm eating them. And by the 5th orange, I'm starting to realize how full I'm getting. The oppressive fullness is building up. And I take a breather. I look at all the oranges that I still haven't eaten. But I also notice a circle of students beginning to form around me. I have an audience, and they are clapping. A slow, rhythmic clap. and it gives me the courage to begin again. So I'm eating oranges. I'm at the 8th orange. I am so full. I am just covered in orange juice. My eyes are burning. My nose is running. I am in misery. But my friends are cheering. And then all of a sudden, it goes completely silent. Like, I can't hear anything. The clapping has stopped. I am in slow motion, and all I see is oranges. And as I am stopped in time, I feel at peace. I feel completely at peace. I am one with the oranges. And in this new state of mind, this altered state of being, I could eat as many oranges as I want. And I finished the last few oranges with minutes to spare. And I sit back. I take a breath. Everyone is applauding. I am covered in cheers from my classmates. And the principal approaches me, and he looks at the wreckage, the peels, the juice. There's a puddle of juice. No one has been spared. Everyone's spattered with juice. My face is completely covered in orange juice. It's a mess. But on my face is a smile of someone who is victorious. And as I look up at him, and he stalks away, angrily, really mad that he lost, the entire lunchroom, even the lunch ladies, they just erupt into applause. And I know that I've won. Thank you.
Oh my God. Whew, I am crying. I am from the Sunshine State of Florida, and I hate oranges. I'm glad you love them. That's wonderful. Well, while we wait for the final scores to get tabulated, I'll tell you a very quick story about what was one of the greatest finds in my life at a thrift store. So I told you at the beginning of the evening that the very first Story Slam we ever had was during a leap year, and the theme that year was leaping. And I told a story about how my very first year at Grant, I was amazed to learn that 1 out of every 5 students was a member of the cross-country team. And I thought, my God, what is in the water here? People just run all the time. And it was a really hard year, my first year here. And I wanted to do something at the end of it to just feel like, I made it through this really hard year here. And as you know, the Starlight Run, part of the Rose Festival, they have a theme every year. And for some reason that year, I think it might have been, you'd think I'd know this, I'm an Elvis aficionado. For some reason, the Starlight Run, the theme was Elvis. So that was, like, get your costume together, but it's going to be a little bit extra if you dress up as Elvis, because we're going to have this Elvis costume contest. And I have the perfect sneer. I got married in Vegas. I was like, I'm going to be Elvis, and I'm going to train. I'm going to run a 5K, and I have never run more than a mile in my life, but I'm going to do it. So I was all prepared. I will be Elvis. I will be my childhood hero. But then I'm like, no, wait. I don't think Elvis is just quite extra enough. I think I have to go the full mile and embrace this. A lot of you students know, you've heard me tell you about my K through 12 education was at a Christian school, and they always preached against rock and roll is evil. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to embrace those feelings from childhood. I shall go as Angus Young from AC/DC. Devil horns and all. And I will find a guitar, and I will change the slogan like, for those about to read, we salute you. Okay, so I know what I have to do. I have to find a schoolboy outfit. But if you've ever seen pictures of AC/DC, you know that the color you have to find is maroon. And I went on the hunt. I had to find a maroon velvet blazer. And I searched through all the Goodwills. And then there on 82nd Avenue, as I walked down the rack of blazers, here was this maroon velvet blazer just waiting for me to claim it. And I got it. My God, the Goodwill on 6th Avenue had the guitar. I found a maroon pair of pants there. I cut them off into the shorts, took my husband's white tuxedo shirt from what he got married in, had that underneath. And by God, I ran that 5K and leaped up to hit the finish line. And that is the greatest piece of clothing that I have ever found at Goodwill. Highly recommend having secondhand wardrobe. All right, so there's my story for the evening. I really want to thank all of our judges for spending their time here tonight listening to stories. Thank you, parents who came out to support your storytellers. Tonight's winner and runner-up are going to be a part of the PPS Interscholastic Story Slam happening in 2 weeks, which happens to be Leap Day, February 29th. There's a couple of other high schools that participate, and we take turns hosting the Story Slam. And so this year is Grant's turn to host once again, and so we will be right back here in 2 weeks at 7 o'clock at Grant. So we are still, I'm having to really tap dance tonight. Last year they were pretty speedy, so I'm gonna pull a couple of more slips of paper to find out what. Oh, someone likes to thrift. I don't know this place. The Basement at Next Adventure. Who? Oh, what do they have? Do tell.
They have lots of secondhand gear.
Secondhand gear. The Basement of Next Adventure. I love it. Someone found, someone's going to have to explain. Someone found a Maryland skirt? Or Maryland?
Marilyn Monroe.
You found a fancy skirt like that? So that you're...
It's just like a normal skirt, like short skirt, but it has like her on.
She's on it. Fascinating. All right, one more, and then we will get the results. So let's see. Oh, this is great. Our photographer tonight, Kai. Kai says a black Hawaiian shirt that had a bright, bold design from, you got it at TJ Maxx in New Hampshire for just $15. What a bargain. I love it. All right, now speaking of extraordinary, library assistant Jennifer Sochua.
And I did raid my father's closet and have this really cool Goodyear jacket.
I know, that's one of her favorites. Okay, so can we have the 5? We haven't done this in a while.
No,
Let me see. Where's the list?
I didn't do it. There.
Okay. All right. So can we have? Let me have these. Okay. So can we have? And I think one of our people had to leave. So can we have Dev and Finn and you're right. Like you didn't write it down. B and we didn't have Noah. Noah had to leave, didn't he?
Yes.
So Finn and Bina and Deb, can we have you come up and be applauded for storytelling? Okay, we have as our runner-up tonight Luke, and our storyteller winner tonight is Nora. Woo! Come on up so we can applaud all the storytellers. All right. Thank y'all once again for coming out in service of storytelling, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.